Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Thursday, June 5th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live. And, today's episode, it's all about current events. All right, current events that's going on in the world, but I got a current event that's even more important than that. We talked about the dog dying, which is not a surprise to anyone. Anyone that knows me knows I have like 18 of those motherfuckers, so I'm a surprise that I haven't seen more of it, to be honest with you, especially out in the country. Like, that's a big cultural divide between people who live in like more urban areas and people who live in more rural areas, especially when you get to like the South. And I don't live in the South, I live in the Midwest, but still, it's, the way people in the suburbs treat their dogs, they don't treat them like dogs, right? They treat them like people, in multiple ways, right? Like they feed them human foods, they give them like very human names. Like a white person in the suburbs will name like their golden retriever Josh or some shit like that, right? And they also fuck them as well. That's a very popular thing for white people in the suburb. Maybe it's all suburban people, but especially white women. Just for some reason, something in them love getting that dog dick. I don't know. I've had male dogs in my life, so I've seen dog dick a few times. Not impressed by it. Not terribly impressed by it. So I don't know what the fuck these white women are on about. But white women also, they do have another bestiality fetish in another in another way, which is fucking black dudes. So I don't know. White women are just really into fucking things that aren't humans. Okay. Uh, and then I think the third or fourth, whichever one we're on now, I don't know. I just went on a little tangent about white women fucking dogs, which they do. I mean, look at the numbers, guys. It's hey, I'm not just racist towards black people, all right? I'm racist towards white people as well. And white people love, fucking things they shouldn't be fucking. They seriously, something about the color of the skin, I don't know, just love fucking things that should. Children, dogs, fucking light bulbs, just all sorts of shit. I wouldn't be surprised if at least 20 white people in America die a year from fucking like outlets or something like that. And same with just all the weird sex shit. It's all white people that do that, which I don't know, something about that makes me not like if there was a black dude, like if there was a big ass like jacked fucking black dude, long dreads, grills in his mouth, shit like that, and he was really into diaper play, I might be like, all right, diaper play isn't that big of a deal, but it's always just the most privileged whites in the world, and just something about that drives me up a fucking wall. Like if it was just like even poor whites were really into diaper play, which a lot of them do end up poor, but they come from good backgrounds. If it was like just poor whites that were into diaper play, I'd be like, all right, maybe I'll see what's going on here. I still probably won't like it, but I'd give it more of a chance. But white people, they just love all that weird sex shit, dude. Like you see those videos of like the pedophile pride parades, which they are. I don't know why this is a thing that people on the left choose to defend. It's ridiculous. Like the pride parades, especially as of late, I think probably COVID, post COVID, they just started pissing on each other. They just started fucking, they opened up the fire hydrant, dude. It was a hot day in Harlem and they just started fucking pissing on each other. And they've been doing it for a number of years. And it's just a weird thing to choose to defend. Like even if you do think it's a-okay, I'd choose another aspect of the Pride Parade maybe to defend a little more than that specific part. You know what I mean? But it's all white, dude. It's a fucking you know what I mean? It's like my grandpa's pubes, dude. It's all white. It is just pure fucking, it's a marble quarry over there, you know what I mean? Just pure whites doing that shit. You never see a Mexican doing that. You want to know why? Because they're at fucking work. All right, they're building the fucking piss palaces for these white pigs to go and fucking urinate on each other. And but, but that's yeah, that's just a thing white people do that I don't fully understand. But another thing that separates people from rural areas and people in the suburbs when it comes to dogs is they just can't accept the fact that the dog's gonna die. I don't know. It's a weird thing they have in them when they'll hook that motherfucker up to a CPAP machine. First of all, a dog is a wolf, basically, right? I know a lot of these motherfuckers have like severely inbred pugs and bulldogs and like French bulldogs, things that just shouldn't exist. I understand that a lot of them have that, but a healthy dog is pretty similar to a wolf. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the way wolves behave in the wild, but they don't want to like lay on the ground attached to a thing that's making its lungs work. The animal doesn't want that, right? Most people really don't want that. Unless you're very young. Like if you're 80 years old, just don't hook me up to that shit, dude. I'm just gonna smoke cigarettes and fucking do Oxycontin until I die. That's how I feel if I was like 80 years old. It's once you're 80, you're kind of sick and tired of the shit, right? It's like it's not just that you know everything, it's that you're sick and tired of learning things, right? Like especially now with like the world and like culture kind of progressing more quickly, even if it's progressing in the wrong way, it's still progressing pretty quickly. And so if you're old, you're just sick and tired of that shit. You're like, what? You're gonna hook me up to a ventilator so that I can hear about like 10 new genders that are coming out, or the fact that like the country's gonna have a civil war because Trump brought 60 white refugees from South Africa. Like, you're just done with it, right? It's not that there aren't things out there to learn, right? It's not that you know everything already. You're just sick and tired of all the shit, right? Because no one's gonna really learn everything. That's some bullshit. That's just like some Western bullshit. Like the East Asian, like the Buddhist, maybe to an extent the Hindu philosophy. I don't know too much about the Hindu philosophy. They just kind of accept it, right? They're like, we're not gonna fucking get off my fucking. Even like the Native Americans have that too, right? Like they were just like, yeah, the animals just do that shit, all right. And then the fucking Europeans came over and they were taking notes and being like, no, actually they do it because. And then the natives were just like, shut the fuck up. That might have been what the whole thing was about, like the resistance with the Apaches and the Navajos, and really most other Native American groups. Like the resistance might have just been to be like, no, we don't want your dumbass fucking nerd culture, dude. I don't care why the wolves do what they do, all right. They just do what they do. I don't give a shit about that. But back to wolves, back to dogs. A big divide. They just can't accept that it's gonna die. They cannot accept that fact, and I don't know, they're just really uncomfortable with it as a whole. And my prime example of this, right? And this is maybe a step too far that the country people are taking, but it is an example of it. So when you dig water lines, especially small water lines, like not big sewer, just like, you're basically like a faucet water line. The way you do it is you use a giant like chainsaw thing, basically, that has little scoops where the blade should be, and it like digs through the dirt. And we were doing that on our farm for some, I can't remember why. Well, obviously we were digging water lines. And so we were digging the line for the conduit to go through, and we were digging kind of behind our barn a little bit. And our neighbor Bill was helping us. This dude Bill, he's fucking hilarious, dude. Funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. This is when I learned that racism actually is funny. I learned this from my boy Bill. So this was actually when he was helping us dig the water lines. He was like, I stole the Chiefs playbook. I have the Chiefs playbook. And he showed me this piece of paper, and on it it said inward run left, inward run right, same play, different N word, and then white boy punt. And he said inward in his defense. He didn't drop the hard R. He said inward, and it's one of the funniest. I was like a dumb little lib bitch at the time. You know what I mean? When you're in high school. And I feel like a lot of people go through like phases where they're like conservative or, they're progressive, but I was just a little lib bitch and I couldn't realize how fucking just hilarious that was. White boy punt, dude. Just the funniest fucking punchline I've ever heard in my life, dude. I've watched Dave Chappelle's specials. I've watched fucking Shane Gillis, Tim Dillon, watched all those guys. None of them have told a joke like that has surpassed it, dude. It's so funny. But anyway, so while we're digging the fucking trench lines through our backyard, or behind the barn, sorry, we're digging there, right? And he's like, you guys shouldn't be digging that way. You can't dig there. He's like, I'll show you where you can't dig. And he was like, you know why you can't dig there? Because there's a bunch of dog skeletons there. There was a dog fucking mass grave there, dude. This was if aliens 1,000 years from now, when we all nuke each other and go extinct, when aliens, land on this earth, or the survivors crawl their way out of their bunker, and they're like trying to get an idea of what like the pre-nuke civilization was like. If they come across that site, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? They committed a dog genocide. Like that's what I imagine. This must have been for him to have like told us that there was like enough, bodies there for because this is a powerful machine, right? This thing is digging through not just like regular dirt, but like clay. It can even probably break up like some softer rocks. For him to tell us about this dog mass grave, there must have been bodies on top of bodies, dude. This thing must have looked like Iraq after America gave the civilians what for, dude. This thing must have been fucked all the way up. And we were like, did someone just own like 80 dogs and they all died at once? And he was like, that we didn't I didn't say that. came forthright with the explanation. Didn't even wait to fucking for a question to be asked. He was like, no. The guy who used to live here a few years ago, right? Like not the previous owners, but maybe like the previous owners. He was like a big trapper, right? Like he would trap animals, and there was this dude who would let him like trap animals on his property, right? Like raccoons. I think you can trap bobcats in Kansas. I'm sure most people don't, but like raccoons, fucking maybe rabbits, coyotes are probably a big one. He used to let him trap there. And the one rule the guy had for trapping on his property, which was if there's a dog in that thing, it doesn't come out alive. Right? And if you know how these traps work, it doesn't like kill the dog, right? It just like maybe breaks like its leg, if that. Because a lot of these traps, a lot of people see them, they think it's designed to like grab it and like snap its fucking leg in half. Maybe some of them, but most of them really don't do that. Like they probably give it a little break, but nothing too major. But this guy, I don't know. He just really didn't fuck with dogs being on his property. I don't fucking know. And so we would kill the dogs, and then I guess he'd just bring them back here and bury them there, dude. And Bill, I don't know how long Bill's lived here, but he's probably seen it fucking all, dude. And the other thing about that guy who, dug the dog mass grave, not my neighbor Bill, but the guy who did the genocide, dude, the Hitler of dogs. Dogs must fucking tell stories about this guy, because there must be bodies in there, dude. I wish we could get one of those things that scientists use to like detect fucking, minerals in the ground so we could see how many fucking dog skeletons are down there. But the other thing about the guy is he was like a sheriff. And he was a sheriff in the county that we live in, fucking obviously, right? He lives in that county. And there's this serial killer, a few, maybe not like a serial killer, but he got a few. You know what I mean? He got more than a couple, and this wasn't just like, he was just killing people and robbing them. He was killing to kill. He had a love of the game. He was a Sarah J. He was like a Sarah J. of serial killers. Like some of these serial killers, especially the mass shooters, the mass like killers, the guys who drive like a fucking van full of explosives into a crowd of people. They're not doing it for the love of the game, right? They just don't love killing people like that. They're trying to get like a manifesto or trying to get people to read the Quran or whatever the fuck they're trying to do. This guy was a love of the game serial killer, just loved killing people, loved, I don't know, watching the life drain from the. But some of them aren't that big a fan of that, right? I feel like from what I watched from the Dahmer thing, he wasn't too big of a fan of seeing the life drain from the eyes. He just loved killing people, and I think that's what this dude was. And he would kill people, right? And I live in a rural area, obviously, and he would take the bodies and like put them in barrels and then like sink them in the pond. And this dude, this sheriff, I think he might have been like maybe a sheriff's detective or some shit like that. He was like one of the people that got this guy, dude. And I have to imagine that him being a dog serial killer played into his ability to catch the regular serial killer, right? Because dog serial killing, if you know anything about serial killers, if you've ever seen any of those documentaries, they go from like grasshoppers and shit, right? And that's where most people stop, especially like young boys. Like when you're 13, 14, you're torturing the fuck out of grasshoppers, dude. You're what's that guy? Dr. Mengele from the Holocaust. You're that guy, but for grasshoppers when you're like 13 years old. And then maybe you get a frog or two, and then you see the frog die, and you're like, oh fuck, dude, I killed a frog. I shouldn't. God damn it, dude, why'd I kill a frog? Right? And that's usually where it stops for most people. Like you see one actual animal die because a bug isn't an animal. Let's fucking be honest here. I know they're important to the ecosystem or whatever, but they're not a fucking animal, right? The Bible, which I'm not even Christian, but I still quote the Bible constantly. They don't talk about insects once in that motherfucker when God's talking about creating the earth. And so, you know, I don't know where I was going. Oh yeah, serial killers. So they go from bugs, where most people stop, right? Most people stop. You might get a frog or two in your day, and then you're like, I killed a frog, dude. Like that's a dick move. And then they graduate. They start going after mammals. And I feel like once you reach the point of like torturing mammals, that's the point of no return. Like if you have a kid and you're listening to this, and that motherfucker's like ripping grasshopper heads off and shit, hey, you just gotta let that go. That's just guys being dudes. That's just having fun. That's just, you're learning about anatomy at that point. You're like, I ripped the head off this grasshopper, and that motherfucker's still moving. And then you get the frogs. If you catch him torturing a frog, you know what I mean? You spank him on his ass, say, don't do that shit. I don't know, maybe that turns into some sort of psychosexual fetish at that point, but he probably isn't going to go on to killing humans. But if you catch your son, and it's going to be a son, I don't, people are, what about female serial killers? What, all two of them? You know what I mean? All two female serial killers who weren't like running around stabbing dudes. They were just, most of the female serial killers in history are like nurses. They're just giving dudes a bunch of fentanyl until they die, which I mean, look, you shouldn't be killing people. But I mean, if you're gonna do it, give them a little bit of fentanyl while you do it, People are addicted to fentanyl for a reason because it fucking rules. And so, but if you catch your son, torturing a mammal or some shit, like you just gotta put him down. You know what I mean? You just gotta turn the tables on him real quick. I don't know, make it look like a fucking accident. Be like, he just drowned in the bathtub. He doesn't know how to swim. And so the cops are gonna be like, well, why is your 14-year-old son taking baths? He's a little bit gay. All right, he's a little bit gay and he's taking fucking baths. Doesn't know how to swim. You know what I mean? He hangs out with a lot of black people. Then never learned how to swim. Just drown that motherfucker, right? I feel like mammals are the point of no return, no matter what the size it is, right? Like mice. If you've ever had like a mouse problem before, yeah, you're gonna have to kill a few mice, but you know, torturing those things, that's a step too far. You can torture all the roaches on Earth, but you can't be doing that to mammals, all right? Birds maybe are a little bit included in there. I feel like you get a one-time pass with a bird, right? Like you catch a little robin with a broken wing and you're like fucking with it a little bit. I never did this. I did torture a few frogs in my day. Not a few. I think it was maybe one. I think I did torture one frog. It might have been two. I might have tortured one frog just to be like, well, maybe that feeling will go away. Maybe that feeling of guilt, which I rightfully should have felt, will go away. No, I think I only ever tortured one frog. And by tortured, I mean I picked it up. I was fucking with it maybe a little bit too hard, but I was like trying to see what was up with this motherfucker. Like, how does this guy work? I don't know. And then I threw him to the chickens, and I was like, maybe a step too far with that one. Maybe I shouldn't be, torturing frogs and then, watching them get ripped apart alive. But, and you do get a one-time pass with a bird. I will give you a one-time pass with a bird as long as it's fairly accidental, right? Like if you're as long as it has like an air of accident to it, you do get a one-time pass with a bird. But anything with mammals, right? Like if you got to kill a mouse, you got to kill a mouse. You got to kill, a rabbit or a mole or whatever. That's just life. That's just what's gonna have to happen. You're gonna have to kill a few mammals in your time. But you can't be torturing the motherfuckers. All right, just put them out of their misery real quick. I remember I bashed a mouse's head with a hammer one time, and I did cry after I did that. I do have to be 100% honest with you guys. Bashing that mouse's head in with that hammer, even though it died instantly, dude. This thing's head, it fucking exploded. I don't know if you've ever seen The Walking Dead and you see that scene where Negan is like bashing them in the head and they're still alive. Negan must have not been lifting the fucking weights, dude. He must have been weakened. Like that guy, this mouse's head fucking exploded into 1,000 pieces. And the reason I killed the mouse, right? This wasn't like a fun torture thing. The mouse was already getting tortured because I guess sticky traps for some reason are like way more effective at catching mice. I guess it's because, if a mouse like puts its paw on like a regular trap, then it's not like 100% going to get got. But if it puts it on a sticky trap, then it is 100% going to get got. And so we had like this sticky trap with this mouse on it, and it was like the middle of winter. But I live in Kansas, all right? So the middle of winter, it can hop up to 60 degrees, which it did do. And so this mouse was just like outside, like my parents put it outside to like freeze to death. And but it hopped up to 60 degrees and I was like looking, I was like, dude, this is fucking, you know what I mean? There's people walking around in swim trunks and shit. This mouse isn't going to be dying anytime soon. I don't want it to like starve to death or die of thirst or like get sunburnt to death. Like that's like the worst death imaginable. And so I grabbed the grocery bag and I took the mouse into the fucking barn. I was like, all right. And I smashed the mouse's head in and I was like crying as I did it. I was like crying as I was bashing the mouse's head in. And like I say bashing, bash singular. I did one single bash, exploded the mouse's head into 1,000 pieces, died as it, that's how a mouse is gonna die. If you're a mouse living in a dude's home, look, I get it, we're encroaching on your guys' territory, but stay in the fucking woods, dude. I don't want to have to bash any more mouse heads in. Wasn't a fun activity. Didn't enjoy it a whole ton, and especially because you're just killing it because it needs to be killed, right? It's not like hunting a deer or whatever, where you shoot it and then you fucking like it feeds you for the entire year or however long a deer lasts. Is you're just killing it to kill it, and that's the shitty part about bashing a mouse's head into 1,000 pieces. But this is all to say, if you catch your son torturing, I would say even a bird. I feel like you get one free pass in killing a bird, right? Like you got your BB gun in the backyard and you're just like shooting soda cans and shit, and then you see a bird and you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna shoot that guy too." You get one free pass in like accidentally killing a bird, right? For just like no reason. Like that's where you get your pass. But if you're torturing a bird, if you catch your son even just killing animals that don't need to be killed, that aren't like insects or the occasional amphibian, right? If you catch your son torturing lizards, I would put that on par with with mammals just because of how sick like lizards and reptiles are, and especially where I live, like kind of how rare they are. Like you might see the occasional snake here or there, but you're not seeing a whole ton of them. I feel like that if you see your son torturing a lizard as opposed to, and I mean like torturing with intent to torture, right? Like if you come in the backyard and your son's just like fucking with it, pulling its arms a little hard, just seeing what that lizard body can do, that's one thing. But if you catch that motherfucker putting it in like an Iron Maiden or whatever, like a home constructed Iron Maiden made out of fucking Hot Wheels or whatever, like if you catch your son doing that, you gotta kill him, right? It's just you just gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, right? That's what Larry Bird said. Larry Bird, basketball player, greatest basketball player of all time in my personal eyes, right? Like if you can't, infer by the tone of my voice, I'm white. And so obviously Larry Bird is my goat. But Larry Bird, basketball player, grew up real poor, and I think his dad either fought in World War II, I think in the Pacific Theater maybe, or he fought in Korea. I can't really remember, but he fought in one of those wars. Both of those wars, like all wars, are incredibly brutal. But and Larry Bird's daddy like fought in those wars, and he would have like night terrors all the time. And he'd like wake up like screaming like right. And like I said, his family was very poor. They lived in like rural Indiana in like the 1960s, dude, which must have been just like this beautiful combination of incredibly poor people that are also incredibly racist. But I think the town he lived in was called like Finch Lick or something like that. That just sounds like a town that would have at least three or four plaques dedicated to black people that have been lynched in that town. Like that just sounds like one of those towns. But Larry Bird, his dad, obviously in the war, fucked him up a whole ton. He ended up killing himself. And you know what Larry Bird said to that? He was, oh, my dad killed himself. Oh, can you believe it? No, he didn't fucking cry about it. He said he did what he had to do. All right. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And so I understand where Larry Bird's coming from that because I too once had to bash a mouse's head in with a hammer. And I would say those two things are analogous, right? Your dad who has severe PTSD from a war he probably never should have fought in, right? And who ends up killing himself because of that severe PTSD and having to bash just a dumb mouse's head in with a hammer. I'd say those two things are probably the exact same thing. And so I understand where Larry Bird was coming with when he said, you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, I don't know. If you catch just mammals, I would start at lizards, and if you see anything more than that, even if you see it on multiple occasions, just kill the guy. All right, there's a ton of ways to kill a kid. Kids kill themselves all the time by accident. Give him a fucking fork and just open up all the outlets and let him go hog wild. Even if he's 14 years old, like men kind of go through this progression in life where when you're like 3 or maybe when you're like a toddler, you're really just completely reckless and you're trying to kill yourself. And then from then on, from like then to, when you start puberty, like I probably started puberty when I was like 8 years old. I had pubes when I was like 9, but we'll say 12 for the average man. At that point, they become toddlers again. So you can kind of just give them a fork and be like, yo, I don't know, these outlets, they look pretty fun, right? Like look at the fun, sparkly electricity and just let him electrocute himself to death or just, maybe bully him, maybe start doing that. Even psychopaths aren't immune to bullying. That's how a lot of them end up like killing people. Like there's a lot more psychopaths out there than people give it credit for, but the serial killers only come about like by bullying, but you gotta like I feel like there's a breakthrough phase there, right? Where if you bully a psychopath to a certain extent, he'll just end up becoming like a serial killer or like some shit like that, or he'll end up like poisoning a river in Africa so that he can make more money for his, investment firm in New York City. But then there's a point where you can like push back past that point a little bit and you get him to kill themselves, and that's what you got to do with this kid. Just every day give him fucking atomic wedgies, put his head in the toilet, give him swirlies, shit like that, and make sure it's a man abusing him, right? Because for some reason whenever it's a woman, they end up killing women for some I don't know why that is, but I don't know, just something about it. They don't start killing dudes. And the answer there is that chicks are easier to kill than dudes. You know what I mean? Let's just be honest here for a second. Chicks are incredibly easy to kill. Like anyone with a sister knows. You like push her on the shoulder and she's like flying into the drywall like you're Mr. Incredible throwing that guy through the walls in that one scene, dude. And so that's probably the reason, right? And that's the other reason I've said this before. It's why I don't really respect serial killers like that, right? Because you're going after the easiest targets, right? If you're like a chick serial killer and you're just like putting on brass knuckles and like beating chicks to death, okay, like that's I, look, I'm not condoning it, but fucking hey, get after it. You know what I mean? If you're a dude doing the same thing, putting on some brass knuckles, beating a dude to death, look, I'm not. Maybe we shouldn't give you the death penalty, dude. Maybe we should like throw you in Iraq and just have you like turn into a superhero over there. You know what I mean? Put you in Abu Ghraib and just have you torture, innocent, innocent Iraqi people to death. But it's a if we're gonna do it right, if we're gonna torture innocent Iraqi dudes to death, we might as well hire a dude who's just very good at it. It was just he's an expert at it. He knows how to torture a motherfucker. It just is what it is. I'm not saying we should be doing it, but if we are, let's do it well. Don't be half-assing it, dude. Full ass it, dude. Both cheeks, both cheeks, right against the glass. Spread the asshole a little bit, dude. If you're gonna be torturing them to death, torture them to death. You know, have a professional do it. All right, and that's how I feel about a lot of shit. Just is what it is, man. If you're gonna kill someone, right? Like that whole who was it? The CEO of United Healthcare. Like they got a professional to do that shit. There's no way Luigi Mangione's fucking gay Italian ass did that shit. A gay Italian dude, you're telling me that dude did a fucking hit on a guy and did it with like pure professionalism and didn't blab to anyone? That's the biggest piece of bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. There's no way it was Luigi Mangione who killed that dude. First of all, Italian in and of itself, he's blabbing to everyone that he killed. Can you believe it? I killed that motherfucker just like how the fucking mob does, you know? And the gay dude on top of that, they love blabbing too. Most people do love blabbing, but gays and Italians especially, you put those two things together, he would have been immediately took off the mask and be like, oh, I don't know how to do a gay Italian. I killed him. I did it. I sucked his dick and then I killed him. I don't know how to do a gay Italian accent, but if it really was that guy, if it really was Luigi Mangione, he would have been telling everyone. So here's the motherfucking tea, all right? I shot him right in the fucking head. You should have seen it. His fucking brains went everywhere. It was crazy. You know, like if it really was a gay Italian dude, can you imagine anyone that wants to like tell the world more about the complete bullshit they do more than a gay Italian dude? Really, can you imagine a person who wants to do maybe like a black woman that might be the only one who just wants to like go if that was really a gay Italian dude, he would have been on Facebook Live immediately, just like filming the dead body, being like, send hearts, send me a fucking galaxy or whatever the fuck they do on like those live streams with like three viewers. Oh, can you believe it? I shot him right in the head. I don't believe it was Luigi Mangione for half a fucking second. He's clearly a patsy. He's clearly, and you got to remember, the way Luigi Mangione was arrested was like he had like a gun. He had the gun in his backpack when he was arrested. A motherfucker that's pulling up on a dude with like a gray hoodie from Walmart and like a fucking not even a shiesty mask, like a fucking old West bandana. A dude that's doing that, hitting that guy with three shots and like the gun was like it was jamming, right? Like the bullets weren't ejecting properly, and so he was pulling the slide back every time he shot the bullet. A dude that's that professional isn't gonna keep that fucking gun. He, there's not a chance on earth with all those pieces combined that he did that. I don't know. That's not part of the current events, but it's just ridiculous that anyone would think it was him. A gay Italian dude, first of all, didn't tell anyone, and B, had that level of professionalism. The gays, certain ones of them are very professional. It's an either or. The gays are either the most professional or the least professional. And this is a most professional get. In theory, right? In theory, this is a most professional get. And so I just don't see it. I don't see how it was Luigi Mangione. It's the Italians, yeah, they do kill people, but they're always blabbing about it. They're always telling the other wops, they walk into the deli, grab a fucking handful of salami grease, slick their hair back, and oh, can you believe it? Shot him right in the fucking head. Oh my God, it was crazy, right? And yeah, so it wasn't Luigi Mangione. It was clearly like a German white dude, right? Like a very repressed, probably from the Midwest. If I had to guess, this guy's probably from like a small town Indiana, Illinois, maybe a little bit further. Maybe he's from like Pennsylvania. I'll even give you like a bit of Western Pennsylvania in there, but this is like a waspy, really Protestant, like German background type of guy that did this. It wasn't a WAP. It's not in a million fucking years was it a WAP that did this. I'm sorry. Not saying you guys can't kill people. Obviously, everyone knows they're the most violent groups of the white of the whites, obviously. Everyone knows that. They're the dumbest as well. That's the other thing, right? Like if they said this was an Irish dude, I'd have the exact same reaction. Like, there's no way. There's no way a fucking Irish dude, especially one from like the Northeast, did that shit. Not in a million that was very Midwestern the way he killed that guy. That was a guy who like grew up, in like a household where his dad was like secretly, having sex with men and women, and he like kind of knew about it, but he couldn't really tell anyone. And his mom like just kind of like took pills and just completely forgot about it. And once he turned 18, he joined the army. He joined like, and he was like worked his entire fucking life to be in the army and be a really good soldier. And he was a pretty decent soldier, but he never, reached the rank. He was an NCO. He probably reached one of the lower sergeant ranks, and then he got out and he was like, I got PTSD, but I also really like killing people, so I'm just gonna go after this guy, right? Like, this was a very repressed Midwestern guy who killed this guy. If I had to take a shot in the dark, or it was a complete fraud, right? The entire thing could be AI. Who knows at this point? It's AI is becoming a problem. I've been watching like videos on TikTok, and every once in a while you'll hear a voice, right? Like someone will be doing like a voiceover of like a sports clip, right? And I'm not talking about sports clip haircut. I'm talking about like, Lamar Jackson throwing the football, and you'll hear the voice and you'll be like, there is just something up with this voice. And I'm pretty sure a lot more people are using AI than we realize to do voiceovers. Literally the easiest thing on earth. That's why I do it, right? Like, that's why I do this. It's the easiest. Talking is the easiest thing on earth. It's something literally every human culture, regardless of where they are, right? Like, some cultures didn't invent, agriculture or writing or certain shit like that. But all of them have talking. It's the most basic thing to do. It's the easiest thing to do. Even using AI to like write a script and then doing the talking, it probably takes longer for the AI to like generate the voice than it does to just fucking get on there and be like, Lamar Jackson threw the football, and then this guy caught it, and then he went in for a touchdown, and that is the TikTok voice too. And I think maybe that's why they're having AI do it, because AI maybe just has a better understanding of the TikTok voice, which is the weirdest phenomenon on earth. Every time I hear it, I'm like, what the fuck? I just instantly click off the video because I feel like it's one of those things where it's just something about it throws me off a little bit. I do not like the TikTok voice, but maybe, and all those videos have like way more likes than they should. It's the most basic commentary over clips anyone who's like a football fan has seen 1,000 times, right? It's like James Harrison returning a pick in the Super Bowl or whatever, and it has like 30,000 likes with like an AI voiceover. So yeah, not a big fan of the AI, not a big fan of the TikTok voice either, but maybe I should start doing it. Can you believe it? Can you believe that my dog died and my dad bought a stove that didn't work? It's really incredible when you buy a stove and it doesn't work. And I could just like clip that, post it on TikTok, get 10,000 likes, and become richer than God. I could do it. Or I could have an Indian do it for me. That's the other alternative. They're always they're always there, whether you like it or not. If there's gonna be 18 billion Indians on Earth, right? You might as well take advantage of that fact and have them do their TikTok voiceovers for you. Can you believe? Can you believe Vishnu and Hindu and da da da? Indian, there has to be an Indian TikTok voice. I'm waiting to hear it. I'm waiting to hear Indian TikTok voice. The first time I ever hear Indian TikTok voice, I'm deleting the app, and I'm severely addicted to TikTok. I mean, it's one of those things where I wake up every day and I like look at TikTok and I'm like, why the fuck do I do this? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm addicted, right? Like that's how addiction works. You're like, why the fuck do I keep doing this, dude? Every time it doesn't give me anything, but I just keep doing. And I feel like I hear people talk about social media that way, where they're like, I don't understand, man. I just get on there and I get fucking angry and I never get anything out of it. And it's like, yeah, because you're addicted. you're addicted to it, right? Like if you heard someone like talk about meth that same way, they're like, yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't enjoy doing meth. It doesn't help me with anything in my life, but I keep doing it. You'd be like, yeah, that's because you're addicted to it. And that's how TikTok is. Like that's how social media is. Like people are addicted to it and they just can't seem to like wrap their head around that fact. Especially with like how many people are addicted to it. I'm surprised it's not more because and it might be one of those things where it's not like a drug or whatever, and people are like, You can't get addicted to something that's not a drug. What are you retarded?" Like that's not how addiction works, but it is. You can get addicted to that. Or maybe it's like you could maybe compare it more to like a compulsion, but it's still a compulsion's kind of just another word for an addiction, right? Like people with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, you're just kind of addicted to doing weird shit all the time. Like that's what OCD is, right? You're like you don't want to get addicted to meth. Like meth is maybe a little bit too much for you, but you have that addictive personality, right? Where it's just something inside of you just compulses you to just do something regularly all the time. But you're like, yeah, I don't want to do meth or heroin. I'm just not the biggest fan of that. So instead, you, I don't know, choose to focus on the dishes or whatever. Like that's all OCD is. It's just an addiction to like a very weird niche thing. And I think psychology is a lot more simple than I think a lot of people give her credit for. Like everyone's like, no, it's the ego's connected to the id, but then the id has like all these other multiple moving parts. I think it's a lot more simple. I think it's really, really more simple than that. I think humans are kind of monkeyish in our ways. I'm not discrediting your religion or whatever, but humans are pretty monkeyish in our ways. Just kind of see what the monkeys do and be like, yeah, the monkey's doing that because it's retarded. And then just apply that to humans. Boom. Figured out psychology for you morons. I figured it out in about 5 minutes. Just humans, just kind of retarded, right? Like we made it way too complicated. We made all that shit way too complicated. It's almost like scientific bureaucracy, if that makes sense, right? Like that's how I kind of feel about psychology. It's like it's scientific. We're making it more complicated not even because it is that complicated, but just kind of to fill time. And that's how I feel about, a lot of these fields. It's just you're just trying to fill time. So you're like, no, it's actually more complicated than that. You don't understand that it's actually about the way the ego interacts with like the human part of it. It's like, no, it's not. People are just kind of retarded and they're just gonna do they're just doing it, dude. They're just gonna get it kind of do what they want to do. They get addicted to stuff all the time. Like that's something that all animals do. And that is a thing, by the way. I heard this thing. Once again, this is on TikTok, so it's 100% true, but there's these parrots in, I think it's India, right? Like northeast India, like right next to, maybe it's in Pakistan, I can't really remember. But they grow opium poppies there. If you don't know, opium comes from the poppy, right? Like poppy seeds. I don't know if all poppies, I do actually know. All poppies produce a certain level of opium, and then there's like one breed or species that produces more opium than the other ones. But there's these poppy fields there, and these parrots, they fly down and they eat the poppies, which, like I said, has opium in it. If you don't know, opium is like, it's a thing in like heroin and I think like fentanyl is like a derivation. I don't fucking know how any of that shit works, but like opiates, right? If you've heard of opiates, Oxycontin, all that shit, it's made out of opium. And these parrots fly down and they eat the opium and they just do it until they die. So when people talk about how like they're addicted to stuff and they just can't lose it, dude, and they feel dumb, it's like, yeah, you kind of are dumb. You're as dumb as a parrot, dude. But maybe that just shows how addictive it is, right? Because even a parrot in the wild, that's like, living in a paradise, right? Like India, it's either a shit-filled city or like the most beautiful landscape you've ever seen in your entire life, right? Like it's either or. So these parrots are like living in this fucking Shangri-La, this paradise, and they're still getting addicted to opium. Meanwhile, you're stuck in, Philadelphia or whatever, constantly surrounded by like garbage and killings, and then you get addicted to opium. So it just depends on how you look at it. It either makes yourself feel better about it that parrots get addicted to it and die, or it makes you feel worse about it. Either way, you're just a parrot, basically. You're just a dumb little parrot eating your opium, getting addicted to it. Whichever one helps you more, that's the one to go with, I'd say. And that's just like a general rule for life. Whichever one, because there's a million different ways to look at every single fucking thing on Earth. Everyone always thinks they have it like figured out. They're like, no, you don't understand. Like war is actually a good thing, right? Like every time a human does a war, like a new invention comes out of it. And then there's the other side, which is no, people die. And for some reason, both the people on either side are so vehemently attached to their side that they just can't lose it. So you might as well just pick one of the sides that makes it feel better and go with that one. And just as long as you're not too much of an asshole about it, as long as you don't let it consume too much of your time, fuck your life up too much, just stay on that side, dude. It's not that big of a deal. Like everyone, it's like this thing where people are like, I constantly reanalyze my thoughts and beliefs, and it's like that's how you become schizophrenic. Like that's what being schizophrenic is. Is like, no, there's a million different ways to look at it, and I need to look at it every single way until I figure it out, until I get it right. That's how you drive yourself and say, no, you pick a side, you just stay on that side. Yeah, maybe you switch over every now and then, depending on what gets you pussy and what doesn't get you pussy. But you just stay on that side and you go, yeah, I'm not switching. And as long as you're not too much of an asshole about it, I don't have anything to say. And speaking of that, dude, that brings us to the first article of the day. This one is from Fox News, and this is a Fox News about an anti-ICE protest in Minneapolis. And it's written by a guy named Greg Norman, who, yeah, he looks like he barely ever fucks his wife, but he has sex all the time with women of a questionable age. And even if they aren't of a questionable age, he does very questionable things to them. No offense, Greg Norman. It's just what you look like, right? Like bright white teeth, a weird, like devilish grin to his face, but the rest of his face isn't like devilishly handsome. It's like kind of fat. You know what I mean? Kind of looks like a used car salesman that just doesn't have any of the moxie, right? He chose to just ride on everyone else's coattails. That's kind of what Greg Norman looks like. Hate to break your heart, Greg, but it's just what you look like. And I saw this online, and just something about this one was just so funny to me. But a chaotic protest in Minneapolis, during which federal agents were seen getting physical with demonstrators, unfolded as elected officials posted highly irresponsible information online, suggesting a criminal search warrant was an ICE operation, police said. But, and the reason I kind of wanted to talk about this one, because the thing about illegal immigration that a lot of people don't realize is that it fucks over the illegal immigrants too, right? Like these aren't people that come to America and then they just like buy a house in the suburbs and they go and get an accounting job. And I feel like this is a symptom of people from the suburbs not being able to understand the perspective of a poor person, right? And the reason it's shitty for the illegal immigrants too is because they just get taken advantage of, right? They're illegal, so it's like, well, they're not going to go to the fucking cops, so I can pay them $3 an hour to pick watermelons in 120-degree heat and then not give them the $3 an hour. Like it fucks them over too. And I think that's a thing that a lot of these people don't understand about illegal immigration. It's not just like the American people that get like, basically undercut by these illegal immigrants. They themselves are getting undercut by themselves. And the whole thing about this is, if you've ever heard Bernie Sanders talk about illegal immigration, this guy, I'm surprised Bernie Sanders hasn't been killed by the CIA at this point, because a lot of the things he says, especially this one that I'm about to, parrot his point poorly, basically, he's 100% right. And he says that, open borders are a corporate policy, right? Like most modern Americans don't want open borders and just have people flood over, right? The corporations want that. And like I said, the reason the corporations want that is because they can then just underpay these incredibly poor, desperate people, right? So the corporations just want as much cheap labor as possible. And so obviously they're all for open borders. That's why the wall hasn't been built yet, right? And that's why they're like writing all these articles, or like paying CNN to write all these articles about how having closed borders is somehow racist. That's why they're doing that, because they just want to get as many people here that they can pay as little money as possible to, so that they don't have to pay your fucking whiny white ass, or your whiny black ass, or your whiny whatever colored ass who has legal immigration or legal citizenship status. That's why that's why they want this. And so it's just so funny that all these people on the left are like, especially like these communists, oh, I'm a communist, I'm a socialist, fuck the corporations, man, anarchy. And then they go and they support open borders, which is exactly what the corporations want. That's exactly what fucking, Monsanto or whatever wants. I mean, maybe not Monsanto, they just sell the product, but these massive like farming corporations, that's what they want. They want to get a Peruvian dude that they can pay 20 cents an hour to go sit in a cattle field all day and kill coyotes, right? That's what they want. That's what these ranchers want. That they want these corporate ranchers. That's what they want. They want incredibly cheap labor. And so It's just very funny to me that all these people that think they care about, the common man, the proletariat, the worker, all these people who probably didn't even read Das Kapital, right? Like because if you read Das Kapital, you would come to the conclusion that A, Marx is retarded, and B, it's not even about communism. Right? Like the any of the excerpts I've read from Das Kapital, they're all about like industrialization, right? Any like rational person that reads Das Kapital and then agrees with its rhetoric, its doctrine, you don't come to the conclusion, right? Without Marx outright being like communism is good, you wouldn't come to that conclusion. You wouldn't come to the conclusion like, oh, we need to redistribute the wealth among the working class. You'd be like, no, industrialism is very bad for people. Like that's the conclusion you would come to, which I'm not saying it's a good one or a bad one, but organically that's the one you'd come to if Marx didn't, come up with all these bullshit like academic points that talk about communism. But I do think this raid in and of itself is just very funny. So tense moments were captured on video Tuesday as federal agents and the public clashed in the streets of the major city. I don't know why he said that, Minneapolis, with Minnesota State Senator Omar Fateh claiming on Facebook, on scene are DHS, ICE, FBI, sheriffs, and MPD, so Minneapolis Police Department, and what he described as blatant fascism on display. Dude, I wonder how much the fucking Koch brothers paid him to make that fucking post. I wonder if he even wrote that post. I wonder if that post was just written by an intern at Koch Industries or whatever. And if you don't know, the Koch brothers are like kind of the ultimate capitalists, and they're from Kansas. Shout out, you know what I mean? Hit a cross real quick. Pray up to God. Yeah, I wonder how much the Koch brothers paid Omar Fateh to say that shit. And I mean, Minnesota, you just want to talk about a shithole, dude. I lived there, one of the biggest shitholes in the fucking world. I'm looking at Omar Mahmoud Fateh is a Minnesota politician and a member of the Minnesota Senate, a member of the Minnesota, goddamn, Farmer Labor Party. Yeah, this guy was born in Washington, D.C. Omar Fateh was born in Washington, D.C., uh, the only city on Earth that's basically its own state, or not on Earth, in the country that's its own state. And this guy's part of the Farmer Labor Party. Okay. Yeah. The Democratic Farmer Labor Party. This guy knows what's going. God damn, dude, this guy is terrifying. This guy has the biggest eyes ever. This guy has fucking Lil Durk eyes, but just like Lil Durk. If you've ever seen Lil Durk, he's got like those big old eyes that like bulge out of his head, but he just kind of looks like a dumb goldfish or something like this. This guy looks like he wants to take your life. Omar Fateh, I know what you are, but early life and education. I'm just trying to see Falls Church High School. Where's that? Is that in Minnesota? I'm trying to see if he's just like fully from like Washington D.C. and he was like, "Yeah, my name sounds Somalian, so I'm just gonna move to Minnesota and become a fucking." Yeah, he's from Virginia. This guy's not even from Minnesota. This guy's clearly like a CIA plant. Like this guy's clearly just like a fucking agent provocateur trying to, cause division within the state of Minnesota. That's all he is. That's very clear. This guy went to this guy went to J. Edgar Hoover High. This guy. This guy's only class he took in high school was how to be a CIA agent. Yeah, he's not even from Minnesota, and he's just is like vaguely Somalian, and so he knew he would win, or the CIA knew he would win in Minnesota. But this is just so funny that these people got like all upset about this, and they were like, they're trying to deport these people. They're trying to rip them away from their home, which it's not their home, right? Like that's what being here illegally means. It means no, this isn't your home, right? Because that's how the law works. It very, very clearly by definition means that this isn't your home, right? Because you can't be an illegal immigrant in a place that you're illegal in and have it be your home. That's not how that works. But anyway, the ICE and all these people. However, the federal operation focusing on a Mexican restaurant was actually related to a criminal search warrant for drugs and money laundering and was not related to immigration enforcement, and no arrests were made. And so that's the thing about this, that like I'm a conspiracy guy. This just seems like a CIA psyop where you're just trying to like get people pissed about illegal immigration for some reason. Because why would you make no arrests when you have a warrant? And this is, yeah, they had DHS, ICE, FBI. So this is federal shit, right? And this isn't just federal shit. And they had like local law enforcement. So this was like a big fucking deal. So they must have had like a surefire, you know, some surefire intel to know that this was a raid. Or they didn't, and this was a CIA psyop set up to cause division. I wonder which one it is. I wonder which one it is. Because I don't know if you guys know a lot about the federal government or really law enforcement as a whole, but they'll just arrest you for shit just to be like, yeah, we arrested a guy. So this was very clearly not what it was about at all, in any way, shape, or form. It was not about an arrest regarding a search warrant. That's not what it was. Someone just like told these guys to pull up here, and then someone told the senator to get all these people riled up about it so they would fight, and then the news would have something to talk about it to distract you from whatever real issue is going on. But hey, we ball, man. It's okay. And even if it was illegal immigrants, it's just so funny that like they've been able to convince people that illegal immigrants shouldn't be arrested. No other, barely any other country on earth does this, right? The only other ones that do it are like other liberal Western democracies, like the UK, like Ireland, like France, like and those are really the only Sweden, I'm sure Norway, Finland, they all do that bullshit over there. But no one else does this, right? Like if this was like South Sudan or what like or not South Sudan, if this was like Qatar or the UAE or one of like those Persian Gulf countries, these guys they would have just killed the illegal immigrants. They they just would have not like maybe executed them on site, but they would have put on like a shitty little rubber dinghy and just sent them back to fucking Iran or whatever shithole they came from. They would not there wouldn't have like some big debacle where like people were allowed to protest. They just would have done the Osama bin Laden play. They would have shot these guys in the head and then dumped their bodies in the fucking ocean. So it's so funny that somehow the corporations through the news have convinced people that we need to be the only country on earth that just allows illegal immigration. It is just very funny that that's true over here. And that just goes to show like people that are like, "Oh, I'd never be a Nazi. I'd never fall for that You're falling for propaganda right now." And I am too a little bit because I got kind of pissed about it. I was like, you dumb libs, those people need to be deported, right? We can't have anarchy in our country. We can't, even if they were illegal immigrants, we couldn't have the anarchy. So I'm just as prone to fucking propaganda, except I don't care enough, right? Like I'm not the type of person to hold a grudge. And so that's why propaganda doesn't really I'm almost too dumb for propaganda to work on me, if that makes sense. Like I just can't hold on to anything long enough for propaganda to like significantly take a hold on me. Even if you show it to me like 1,000 fucking times, and like if I was a mouse, right? And they were like testing to see if a drug worked on me to like improve my memory, I would make the same mistakes in the maze every time I did it. Like that's how I am. That's how I know propaganda. You could show it to me 1,000. You could show me pro immigration, illegal immigration propaganda to me 1,000 times. You could show me anti anti immigration propaganda to me 10,000 times. Neither of them would have the slightest effect. I'd still be like, yeah, but like, are we having pork chops tonight or like, yeah, do you guys have Hershey's chocolate syrup? Yeah, I just don't like the store-bought shit. Yeah, I prefer making my own chocolate milk so I can like control the amount of sweetness and flavor I put into it. That's fully what I would be like. If I was like a test subject, I'd be like, guys, can you not serve me orange jello tonight? Like a test subject in like a propaganda study, and they're like, this guy's fucking immune to it. This is incredible. Yeah, no, it's pork chops. People just they mess it up too often, which is just crazy with pork, right? Because you'd figure it would be dry every time. And I'm like saying this as they're showing me like the most intense, white nationalist propaganda on earth. I'm like, yeah, yeah, cool video or whatever. How long it taking? Okay, I don't care. Like good editing, I guess. I don't know. But like, what flavor is the salami? Does it come from an Italian duck? Because I don't like. I'm really not the biggest fan of like the pre-packaged shit from the store. It's not bad. I'll eat it. But if I'm gonna have a charcuterie board, can you please get me fresh deli sliced salami? Just like I'm tied down in a fucking clockwork orange chair with like my eyes pried open. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm watching it, but like. Can you guys bring me a fan for my bedroom? I can't really sleep without a fan on. I feel like that's what the American people need to embrace. Everyone thinks they need to, try to understand every piece of political, socioeconomic information that comes into their minds. When in reality, you don't. You need to worry about what flavor the motherfucking Jello is. And then we have our second article. And I have two articles from the New York Post today, which is I have one from Fox News and then two from the New York Post, but it's whatever. It's like CNN is just it's just liberal Fox News. So but the New York Post, gotta give these guys credit. They're just sensationalist journalists to everything, every fucking different article, every different, political orientation. They're just sensationalist. And so I can kind of appreciate that, right? Like they're consistent. They're not taking a side. They're just like, how can I get as many clicks as possible? So this is from the New York Post. Neighbor reveals heartbreaking text that mom of girls allegedly killed by homeless father sent after she found out they were dead. And I guess this is a video of the dude pulling up to the house. He doesn't look that homeless. This guy might be like one of those bullshit, like technically homeless guys. Cause I'm looking at him. He's got a fresh cut. He's got some nice tattoos. He doesn't have like some shitty prison tattoos that look like a poorly drawn map all over his arm. Like he's got some clean tattoos. They are white trash tattoos. They're like the kind of patchwork type that all white trash people have. And if you're listening to this and you have patchwork tattoos and you're like, I'm not white trash. I'm actually like a smart artist. No, you're just like a nerd white trash. Like that's the difference. And so the mother of the three girls who were allegedly killed by their homeless father was desperately awaiting their return and then sent a shocked, heart-wrenching text when she found out they were dead, says her neighbor who received the text. Bin Wen, oh, this was an Asian, said the grieving. Oh, okay, no, never mind. The Asian is the neighbor. I was gonna say, if this was an Asian homeless guy who killed his fucking like ex-wife's kids or whatever, holy shit, dude. Shout out the Asians because they're becoming white. That's a very white thing to do, dude. Martin Luther, I thought Martin Luther's dream was fucking achieved in that moment when I was reading that. Because I really thought this was an Asian lady with an Asian husband. Because the guy was like, he kind of looked like Mexican maybe, but he was white. Yeah, his name is Travis. So yeah, this is a white guy we're dealing with. But I thought it was an Asian at first, and I was like, holy shit, dude, we've achieved it. The thing everyone said was impossible, like true racial equality through just years of like gentle policy making, we finally achieved the equality. Like we're there. No, turns out it was a white guy named Travis, and the mother's name is Whitney. And I'm just looking at her. Look, Whitney, no offense, but it kind of looks like this was the type of lady that this was going to happen to. I'm not trying to be mean here, but Whitney, she looks like the type of nondescript white person, right? Like she's not visibly like Italian or Spanish or British or Norwegian or anything. She's just like a nondescript kind of trashy white person who came into a little bit of money. She just kind of looks like the type of person that this would happen to. I hate I hate to say that to Whitney, but it's true, man. I'm not trying to be a dickhead, Whitney. I know your three kids were killed brutally by your ex-husband. And in fairness, he does look like the type of guy that would do that. One of these white guys that just, for some reason, and for some reason it's always the white, like say what you want about the black, yeah, black people are constantly killing each other, but they're not like, they're not killing all 10 of their kids. And every time one of them does, they're like part of an insane cult. So right? And I guess that's not entirely true when you remember about the Jonestown cult, which, if you don't know, that's where the term drinking the Kool-Aid came from, which is just so funny that George Jones was the guy's name who led the cult, had a majority black following, and he was like, how can I get these people to like not question the food or the water that I'm giving them so that they just drink it and kill themselves? And you're like, they're all black. Just give them Kool-Aid. So, but that was one instance. They're not doing it like the whites are doing it. The whites are doing it just as whenever you go like 3 months without hearing a story like this, and then you hear another one. Like right as soon as the hoopla is like dying down around that shit, you hear about it again. Fucking Travis, dude. But so the mother of the three girls. Oh wait, no. Ben Wen said the grieving mother, Whitney Decker, shared with him that the girls had not returned after a visit to their father. And shout out Ben Wen because she was just like, maybe Travis is stranded in the mountains. Yeah, so they were like visiting him, and she was like, maybe they went on like a camping trip. There's a chance. There are helicopters going out. Oh my God, I would have been panicking so hard. They found their bodies. They can't find Travis. And this is how you know, holy shit, dude. Travis Caleb Decker is still on the run after his daughters were found dead. But this might be a passport or like a driver's license photo. But yeah, no, this guy this guy's been arrested before and he's got some fucked up of teeth. I might be calling it right now. This seems like a meth thing just looking at Travis, especially the tattoos he had. This looks like a meth thing. Nguyen said, startled by the news, began crying and asking what happened. The heartbroken mother could provide few answers, prompting the neighbor to share everything he remembers from his last conversation with Travis Decker on the day the girls went missing. Yeah, this guy, yeah, he did that shit 100%. Just him being white alone, him having the name Travis, just Travis is the name of a white guy who just rages for no reason constantly. And I'm not talking about like fun rage, like taking some fucking, doing some cocaine and drinking like 10 beers at a party. I'm talking about like fucking just a deep, deep, like animalistic rage that he just can't control for some. Like Travis is definitely the name for that. And so that name alone, combined with the fact that he is white, there's not many black Travises out there. The only black Travis that ever existed was Travis Kelsey. And then he kind of, in fairness to Travis Kelsey, and a lot of people are shitting on him for this, the fact that he used to be a wigger, but now he's kind of like a, a little more of like a, oh, I'm a Midwest beer drinking, country guy, you know. And I can at least respect it a little bit. I don't respect the fact that he abandoned the wigger ways. If you're an adult, if you're over the age of 15 and you're a wigger, that's just something you have to stick with for the rest of your life. It's, I'm a little bit upset with him for abandoning those ways, but I'm impressed by the fact that he saw the tide turning. That he saw the tide turning. And he's like, all right, I can't. This isn't going to be cool anymore, right? Like he saw Morgan Wallen climbing up in like the Billboard Top 100, and he's like, that guy said the N word, and his album is still getting even more popular. And he saw that, and he was like, all right, I'm going to be white again, and I can respect him for that. It's kind of a bitch lazy move, and I do think the Wiggers will come out on top. I do think very quickly America will get over this whole thing when they realize country music kind of sucks, right? Like they'll get over it pretty quickly when they realize you can't really listen to country music anytime that isn't warm. And that's just the truth about it, right? Like I can listen to rap when it's cold. I don't really listen to a whole lot of music. I'm more of like a podcast audiobook type of guy, but I'll listen to some music every now and then. In country music, first of all, very rarely is true country music on my play, like Jimmy Buffett, Zach Brown band, shit like that. I can listen to that till the cows come home, but really only in the summer. And like real country music, like which they all do the same thing. All country music has that thing where they like play the guitar super quick and then they like say a lyric louder. Like it's just so common in all the country music you hear. They always do the same thing. Just like dun, 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 and I said oh no. It's like the mumble rap thing that like Snoop Dogg pointed out. He pointed out that like the Migos invented in like the world of mumble rap the ha nama na nama na 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 ma na ma, right? Like but there's a country music equivalent of that I feel like I've identified. And I can't really put my finger on it exactly, like I said, because I don't listen to a whole lot of country music, and I'm sure Snoop Dogg listens to more rap music than I do country music, but it just they like play the guitar. No, 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 no. It's so stupid. They're gonna realize it's the exact same corporate formula as rap, and I feel like they're gonna get over it pretty quickly, and everyone's just gonna go back to like the suburbs, which is what they should do. When described Decker's constant repetition of the questions as oh, okay, so this is the neighbor talking about when he talked to Travis Decker. He looked very sad and kept asking how many times over and how I'd been many times over and over. He told her about the brief exchange when Decker came to pick up the girls. Nguyen described it's Nguyen or when, I can't remember, but shout out this Vietnamese dude. Described Decker's constant repetitions of the questions as strange with the now fugitive dad, like he wasn't remembering what he already said. And this maybe goes back to my meth theory. Maybe he wasn't actively on meth, but anyone that knows anything about meth, you like that shit can like permanently fuck you, or for at least for a few months can like really fuck you up. And I'm sure it can cause like a permanent psychosis. So my bet, looking at Travis, he looks like he's a white guy who only works with Mexicans, which illegal Mexicans too, by the way, not the legal ones. He looks like he only works with illegal Mexicans. And if you're a white dude in that place, look, I get it, the job market's kind of shitty, but if you're a white dude in that place, it's and I get it. I can't find a job either. Some people you just need a job, but he looks like he was doing that before the job market turned shitty, if you know what I mean. And this isn't a disrespect to the illegal Mexicans out there. You guys, I don't care if you're technically and maybe not technically just outright breaking the law by being here. I respect you. And that's a thing I've always said. I don't care about illegal immigrants from Mexico. But if anywhere else, fuck off. You know, like Mexico, they're basically Americans. They love corn. They listen to like weird circus music. They love beer. They're basically already Americans, in my opinion. So they just speak a different language, kind of. And they're even better than Americans in some way, shape, in some ways. So I don't really care about illegal immigrants as long as they are from Mexico, not just people who are crossing the Mexican border, which I guess they're all doing. Like they catch like Chinese dudes. They catch a dude from like fucking Indonesia at the Mexican border sometimes just because everyone flies to Mexico first and then just comes up through the border. It's a solid game plan. I gotta give him to it. Pretty creative. I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have just been like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay in Vietnam for the rest of my life. So I mean, a little bit of credit where credit is due. Smart game plan there, but yeah, that's the thing about it is like before it was just there was probably still just as many illegal Mexicans coming in, but they were Mexican, so everyone was like, that's fine. But then it started with like the Chinese and really the Indians. It's I hate to blame the Indians. The Indians do get a lot of shit, but I feel like it kind of is their fault. All right. And then we're on to our tech news. I was looking up tech news and it was all like dumb gaming shit. And so this one's kind of, I guess, a little bit political, but ransomware group claims it stole more than 730,000 of files from Kettering Health. And Kettering Health is a hospital in Beaver Creek. Where the fuck is Beaver Creek at? Let me know where Beaver Creek is. Ohio. Okay, so yeah, this is just they found out like that a bunch of dudes on fentanyl show up there all the time to try to get more fentanyl. That's good job, you figured it out. That's what all 90% of like the business of a hospital in Ohio is just people that are on drugs. And probably more of America than it's ever been is like that, but especially in Ohio. Dude, Ohio and like that kind of borderline Midwest, like kind of Appalachian region was like it was like the epicenter for the opioid pandemic in America, or maybe not pandemic. Is there epidemic? Is that the right word? I don't know, but it was like the epicenter for that, and so I have to imagine theirs is just it's so much worse. It's just so much worse than ours. Like a small this. I don't know where Beaver Creek is. I looked it up briefly. I imagine it's like a suburb of like Cincinnati, or maybe it's in like fucking God forbid Eastern Ohio, but it's in a just I imagine just a very shitty place that used to have a lot of factories and industry and shit like that. It's in the Rust Belt, maybe, or like just outside of it. Maybe it's in coal country, which is even worse. But but I imagine it's a place that has been hit hard, very very hard by the opioid epidemic, and I imagine that's of the 730,000 files that they stole from this hospital, I imagine 729,999 are a dude who's like slamming his head into the wall and being like, I have a headache. You need to give me fentanyl and fucking Oxycontin or whatever the fuck you have back there. Like I feel like of the files that they stole, there might be one of a dude who like got injured while he was working. And then all the rest are just dudes trying to scheme on fucking opium. And then this final article, what is our celebrity news for the day? So this is the Princess Leonor of Spain arrives in New York after 5 months at sea. And this might be a bullshit 5 months. Once again, I was kind of talking about the bullshit homeless. A lot of sailors are like, yeah, I spent 5 months at sea when I was in the Navy. And it's like, yeah, but you were docked for like 3 of the months, right? Like, yeah, technically there was a boat there, but I don't know. It's kind of some bullshit. So let's read about it. Princess Leonor of Spain arrived aboard a Spanish Navy training ship in New York City. God damn it, dude. We have to stop letting Spanish speaking people operate boats in New York City. I don't know if you guys are up to date on the news, but we gotta stop letting them do that. It never turns out well. They ran into a bridge. How do you run into a bridge? They hit a fucking bridge with an old sailboat, dude. Jesus Christ. The Spanish, that was the Mexicans that did that shit, but oh my God, the 19-year-old royal who is heir to the Spanish throne followed her younger sister Sofia, appeared in good spirits alongside fellow cadets as she saluted onlookers aboard the Juan Sebastian de Elcano. I'm looking at her. Yeah, the royal families are all inbred. I'm looking at her. She's got a bit of a. If you've ever seen that Iona chick, the female rugby player who I'm pretty sure played for like the U.S. women's Olympic rugby team, she could have played for the men's and we probably would have won a gold medal. She kind of looks like that, dude. She's got a wide jawline, dude. This might be a little bit of a Brigitte Macron we got on our hands, dude. What's up with people fucking lying about? What's up with like powerful people lying about being trans? I understand why Bergrit Macron is doing it because he is a trans pedophile who is also probably his wife's or her his husband's dad. I understand why you lie about that, but like Big Mike Obama, fuck it, man. He's already black, right? Like Obama's already black. It doesn't make a difference if he's married to a trans. So I don't know. But yeah, she pulled up. In March 2023, the Spanish royal house announced that Leonor was set up to undergo 3 years of military training. I wonder if Spain has mandatory military service. I'm gonna look it up right now because the British did this shit with fucking what's his name, Prince Harry, and they were like, "Oh, he's in Afghanistan now. Uh, compulsory service." Oh yeah, he's in Afghanistan and he's helping us, but he wasn't, right? Yeah, okay, they abolished compulsory military service in 2001. So maybe they're going to bring it back and they're being like, oh, well, we'd send our own daughter to do it, which is the exact same play the British did, right? Where they were like, you should join the army because our son did, right? And he's technically, not not properly trained or of the proper rank to have the job he does, but he still does it, all right? And it's just a thing people do where they pretend their kids are in the military so that everyone else's kids join the military. But that's all I've got for this episode, guys. We got a little bit conspiratorial. We talked a fair bit about serial killers, maybe a little more than we should have. Talked about the stove, dude. My dad was pissed about the stove. He was having none of that at first, right? I gotta tell you the story about the stove. So he first the box was a little bit fucked up, and the guys were like, nah, it's all right, right? And so my dad was like, all right, I'll give the stove a chance. I'll see what's up with this stove. And so he brings it home, and like the sheet metal around the bottom, like the little rim around the bottom of the stove. You guys know what I'm talking about? That was a little bit bent, and he was like, all right, I'll get like 10% off, 15, 25% off, something like that. I'll talk to these guys. I'm sure they'll give me something off. And then we get the stove inside, and like he hooks it all up to like make sure the electronics are working. But what he didn't do was like check to make like sure that like the door closed all the way on the stove, which it didn't. Right? And then like the warming shelf or the warming drawer or the fucking thing underneath the stove, which I've never, or the thing underneath the oven, which I've never used before, that thing didn't work either. And he was just like, these fucking assholes tried to pawn this shit off on me, dude. He was having none of the stove, dude. He was pissed off about that stuff. Which I mean, fair enough. A stove's a fucking expensive thing, and if you're gonna like sell someone like a busted up, shitty version of it, just being like, oh yeah, we're just gonna like completely pawn this thing off that doesn't really fucking work on this guy and give him like 10% off. That is a fucking dick move, right? Like it's not just like it got dinged up while they were loading it into the back of the truck. It's like, yeah, this thing doesn't work. And so yeah, he's pissed off about the stove, dude. Even after he hooked it all up, and they still got him. Why I oughta. All right, that's all I've got for this episode, guys. Hope you have a good day, good week, good year, good life, good summer. Hope your summer's going well for you, especially if you're unemployed. I know unemployed people with jobs are like, yeah, I wish I could be unemployed for this. And it's not that great, dude. I just do the same thing every day, and it sucks every time I do it. But if you're unemployed, I hope you're having a fun employed summer. All right, have a good day, good week, good year, guys, and I'll see you guys on Monday for the full episode. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. We might do Hinduism. All right, peace.